My name is Elara Vance. I'm an architect, and I design structures meant to last. My own life, I believed, was my most solid creation. A 9-year marriage to Marcus, a partnership with my sister Chloe, and parents who were my anchors. It was all a beautiful, stable blueprint. Until I stood in the softly falling snow on New Year's Eve, holding a bottle of vintage champagne, and heard the conversation through my parents' kitchen window that turned my blueprint to ash. I'd come home early to our family lake house in the Catskills, wanting to surprise everyone. The house glowed against the dark pines, music floating on the cold air. I was about to knock when I heard her voice, my younger sister, Chloe, breathless with a secret she could no longer contain. 4 weeks along. Congratulations, you're going to be a father. The silence that followed wasn't shock, it was acceptance. Then my mother's voice, warm with relief. A baby! Finally, some light for this family after such a difficult year. A difficult year. My year. The year of my third miscarriage. The year of silent dinners and side-laced glances. I heard the clink of glasses, a toast, my father's low murmur, "A man needs a legacy. Blood continues the line." In Marcus, my husband, his voice was soft, hesitant, but he didn't correct them. He didn't say, "But what about Elara?" He simply said, "We'll figure it out. The timing, it's delicate." Delicate, like the porcelain heirloom I'd shattered in my grief last spring. The one Chloe had glued back together, whispering, "Some breaks can be fixed, Allie." I stood there, the snow gathering on my shoulders, the champagne going warm in my hand. 9 years, countless hopes that ended in heartbreak, and in my family's warm, lit kitchen, they were celebrating the end of my marriage and the beginning of my replacement. I didn't scream, I didn't storm inside. A coldness more profound than the winter night settled in my bones. I turned, walked back to my car, and drove away. The real architect in me had just seen a critical structural flaw, and I knew the entire building had to come down. The blueprint for ruin. I drove to the only sanctuary I had left, the downtown loft of my oldest friend, Sasha Kovac, a former forensic accountant with a mind like a steel trap and a loyalty that never wavered. "Start from the beginning," she said, handing me a glass of bourbon, her eyes already sharpening with tactical focus. I told her everything. The voices, the toast, the 9 years of trying for a child with Marcus, while he'd apparently been seeding a new family with my sister. Sasha didn't offer platitudes. She opened her laptop. "We operate on 2 fronts, emotional and financial. They've planned a future without you. We will methodically dismantle it." First, the lawyer. Not the family friend who'd done our simple wills, but a relentless shark named Diana Shaw, recommended by Sasha. I called her at dawn on New Year's Day. "Prenuptial agreement?" Diana asked, her voice crisp. "Yes, favorable to me in case of infidelity." "Good. We'll use it as a crowbar, but we need proof that isn't just hearsay from a window." The proof came from an unexpected source, my reclusive uncle, Leo, a cybersecurity ghost who'd always been fond of me. When I called, broken-voiced, he listened in silence. "The lake house has smart devices, Elara. Your father loves his gadgets. Give me 12 hours. He didn't need 12. He sent me a file by 6 that evening. It wasn't just retrieved texts. It was a timeline built from data packets and location pings. Marcus and Chloe had a shared calendar, hidden under an innocuous name, Project Legacy. It logged their meetings, hotel bookings, weekend getaways to a cabin I'd thought Marcus used for solo fishing trips. There were encrypted message fragments. "Can't wait for us to be a real family. Once the dust settles with E." But the masterstroke was audio. Leo had accessed the cloud backup of the smart speaker in my parents' kitchen. He sent me a file dated from Thanksgiving. I pressed play, my heart a stone in my chest. My father's voice. The Vance Family Trust stipulates the primary beneficiary must have a direct heir. If Elara can't produce one, the distributions shift. Marcus, if you were to have a child with another Vance, the continuity is maintained. The assets stay in the family. Marcus, after a long pause, and Elara? My mother, gentle, lethal. She'll need care after her difficulties. We'll see she's comfortable, but the legacy, the future, must be secured. It wasn't a crime of passion. It was a corporate merger. My infertility was a liability. My sister was the solution. My husband was the willing instrument, and my parents were the board of directors approving the hostile takeover. Sasha smiled, a wolfish thing. Now we have the blueprint of their conspiracy. Time to collapse the foundation. The controlled demolition. We didn't confront. We didn't scream. We executed. Diana Shaw filed for divorce on grounds of adultery and spousal fraud, attaching a sealed, evidence-heavy appendix for the judge's eyes only. Simultaneously, she filed a separate civil suit against my parents and Chloe for conspiracy to induce breach of marital contract and emotional distress. The legal papers were served not at home, but at my father's office and at the charity gala my mother was chairing. The shock was public, precise, and humiliating. Marcus called, frantic. "Elara, please, we can talk about this. It's not what you think." "I have the audio from Thanksgiving, Marcus," I said, my voice eerily calm. "I know exactly what it is. Speak to my lawyer." Next, Sasha went to work on the financials. The Vance Family Trust was my grandfather's creation, designed to protect the family wealth. Using the evidence of the conspiracy, Diana argued that my parents and Chloe had acted in bad faith, attempting to manipulate the trust's terms. We petitioned to have them removed as trustees and executors. But the true twist came from Leo's deeper dive. He found something not even my father knew, a dormant clause my grandfather, a shrewd and cynical man, had inserted. It stated that if the sitting trustees were found to be acting against the familial unity or well-being of any direct descendant, the trust would not simply be reassigned, it would be locked for a generation, its assets placed in a blind trust managed by an outside firm. My parents weren't just risking their control, they were risking everyone's access to the wealth for the next 25 years. I requested a private meeting with them and Chloe, not in the warm kitchen, but in the cold, formal living room. They arrived, faces drawn. My father tried to bluster. "This is nonsense, Elara. You're destroying your family over a misunderstanding." I played the Thanksgiving audio. The color drained from their faces. "Here are your choices," I said, laying out Diana's papers. 1. You all voluntarily resign from the trust. Marcus agrees to my divorce terms, which are generous to me. Chloe relinquishes any future claim on trust distributions. The baby will be provided for, but not through the family coffers. And the second choice, my mother whispered. We go to court. I expose the audio, the messages, the project legacy calendar. The world sees your conspiracy, and, per grandfather's clause, the trust locks. No one gets a dime. Not you, not me, not Chloe's child, for 25 years. You'll spend a fortune in legal fees just to lose everything. It was checkmate. They had built their plan on secrecy and my expected compliance. They hadn't prepared for a counterattack with superior intelligence. The new foundation. They signed the agreements. The resignations were swift and quiet. Marcus settled the divorce, stunned by the efficiency of his ruin. My reputation as the fragile daughter was incinerated, replaced by wary respect. I used my divorce settlement and my now uncontested share of the trust to do two things. First, I funded a foundation for women suffering from infertility. focusing on mental health and financial support, a living rebuke to my family's transactional view of parenthood. Second, I bought the lake house from them at a fair market price. I wanted the scene of the crime. I had it stripped, renovated, and turned into a retreat for artists and survivors. The kitchen where they toasted my oblivion is now a bright, sunlit studio. I see them sometimes, at a distance. My parents, aged by the scandal, living in a modest condo. Chloe, a single mother, struggling without the golden safety net. Marcus, who moved to another state. There is no dramatic punishment, only the quiet, relentless consequences of their choices. As for me, I am no longer Elara, the architect of others' comfort. I am Elara Vance, who builds structures on truth, not lies. My life is quieter, but it is my own design. The silence is no longer empty, it is peaceful. The solitude is not lonely, it is powerful. The greatest revenge is not in their downfall, but in my unshakable rise. I learned that family can be the most dangerous fault line of all. And sometimes, to save yourself, you have to be willing to let the old world burn so you can build a new one from the ashes. If this story of a quiet eavesdrop that ignited a war for autonomy resonated with you, then you know some families are gilded cages. Subscribe to Clara's Revenge. Hit that notification bell because every week we bring you the true stories of those who heard the truth through a window, a door, a phone line, and used that truth as a weapon to reclaim their lives. Your support helps us amplify these whispers into roars. Subscribe now and join a community that knows the most powerful revenge is a life rebuilt on your own terms.